All right, everybody, we're going to start the meeting now. My name is Dan Mortensen. I'm the current chair of the Pacific Northwest section, and I'm happy to have you with us. And we're going to get into the meeting in a few minutes. I've got some announcements to make. The first one is that our next meeting for this group is January 30th of next year, which is a little over a month from now, and that will be on Zoom only. Michael Ashton, who is on our committee, has put together a meeting called the Analog Synthesizer Renaissance 2010 to 2020. And he's going to have as a guest Trent Thompson, who worked for Bob Moog for some period of time, to talk about what happened then. And I think he's not here. Is that true? Michael, you're not here.
Correct.
Right. So the Zephy for that, which is where you get your tickets, is available now. And you can get a ticket if you want. But the web page for that will go live soon sometime. I'm not sure when soon, but it'll go live soon. The other thing I wanted to say is that we have we do these meetings as part of the Audio Engineering Society's international group, and being part of a branch of that gives us the gravitas to be able to ask people to come and talk to us, which is more than if we said you want to come and talk to me and some of my friends. And we appreciate being part of the AES for sure. The AES operates gets its budget mostly from members. And while we certainly don't require membership to be part of our meetings, we do encourage it if you're so inclined. And they ask you for references for that. And if you run out of people to reference, you feel free to use any of us co-hosts here as your reference. And we'd be happy to vouch that you're a stand-up person. So do that. And I also want to thank many of you who have donated to us at one time or another, including for this meeting. We got over $40 to contribute to our section's operations, and every little bit helps, and we appreciate it a lot. And I wanted to point out, which I did in the next meeting's publicity, that the Zephy does not charge fees for donating. And it doesn't matter what you donate, but there's no fee to you or to us. And if you want to send us a buck or two when you get a ticket, that would be welcome. Certainly not required, but I thought it would be interesting to see how many people were inclined to give us a buck or two once in a while. And again, when you do that through Zephy, what your card is charged is a buck or two or whatever it is you join. There's no fees whatsoever. So thank you for doing whatever you've done. I think that's all the prior announcements that I have. So Matthew, if you would tell us how you got the idea to do this meeting and introduce yourself and John, that would be awesome. And everybody turn off your microphones and turn off your cameras, please.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Matthew Sutton. I'm a section member, committee member, and so every year I have to come up with something to, some kind of a meeting. And this time I'd been doing a lot of work with my friend John Metzler here to my right, or left on your screen. I don't know. I can't keep track. Anyway, and John has a unique setup in his studio, Quiet Please Recording in Greenwood, Seattle, Washington, where he has an MM1200 over there, a lovely Otari / Sound Workshop 34 console with moving fader disc mix automation, and a complete ProTools set, of course. And John's you're a trainer, a ProTools trainer, I think.
I was, yep.
Yeah. And as well as a clasp system, which allows him to integrate the MM1200 with his digital recording. And as I've been back in the business working on audio gear for the last few years again, after taking side trails off different places, one of the things that's really struck me is the nostalgia for tape, that in some cases borders on ridiculous in my personal opinion, but people are really interested in that analog sound, right? And so the thought occurred to me that we could compare tape and emulators and see what we see. And as has been alluded to more than once on the call already, I do apologize for the quality of Zoom, and I do recommend that everybody go to the website and download the files, which I have to thank John Chester for. Huge thanks to John for level matching them very closely, and listen to them on your own after the meeting if you haven't had a chance to before. You'll hear more. The changes that you hear are subtle, and having the opportunity to do more than listen to it over Zoom, I'm sure will make a difference. So that's where the meeting came from. And then to make it happen, John and I spent a long afternoon moving audio around and creating these different sample files. So I want to talk a little bit about that. We started with some snippets of a piece that John recorded of.
The band is called the American Flats. They're a band based here in Seattle.
And they very kindly allowed us to use these snippets for this use. So we started with them in ProTools. The original files are 96K 24-bit. And we ran them through different tape decks, one tape deck at different settings, and through a couple of software emulators. I will apologize immediately for not having a hardware emulator. We just logistically couldn't put it together to make it work. So while the headline of the show of the meeting notice was hardware emulators, we don't have that. I apologize. In any event, so what we did was we started with these audio files in Pro Tools, and we first rolled Pro Tools, patched the output of Pro Tools into the MM1200, and patched the output of the MM1200 back into the analog to digital for the Pro Tools. Put the MM1200 on input and bounced the tracks through the MM1200. So that's the direct, I think that's what we called it, direct.
Oh yeah, we could call it called it deck through, because we're just passing the digital signals through the deck and then re-recording them. So they've gone through the electronics of the machine, but haven't actually hit tape, haven't been recorded to tape and played back off tape.
Thanks, yeah. And so that's the first thing that we did. And then for the remaining recordings on the MM1200, we synced the 1200 using John's Adam Smith Zeta 3, and we recorded to the deck at varying levels on the tape, and then rolled back to tape deck and played them back into Pro Tools, keeping everything in pretty close sync. So it allows us, as you'll see when we get into playing them back, it allows us to compare them, selecting from one track to another pretty fluidly. For levels, we varied the level on the tape to show the impact of different levels. We referenced the levels that we hit based on the 185 nanowebers per meter, which is where the first measurement of flexivity that I'm aware of started with, the level of recording on the tape. And then we referenced that 0, and then we recorded at +3, +6, +9, and +12. Most modern decks run at +6 as their reference level on tape, so that's kind of the normal. +9 is hotter, and +12 is really hot, and as we'll find out, I'll give away the little secret, it doesn't sound very good most of the time. But it was worth doing just to see what we got. We then took the tracks and then ran them through 2 emulators, and I'm going to let John talk about the emulators because I'm a tape deck guy.
All right.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Before we do that, can you tell us how you want to handle questions? I forgot that part. Do you want
sure.
people to just unmute and ask, or do you want them to put it in chat, or some both?
I suppose one thing that might work is, since I'm looking at a TV screen beyond our camera that has all of the grid of all of the people in attendance right now. And right now, with everybody's cameras turned off and ours is turned on, it might be easy to see someone waiting for a question if you turn your camera on. Although some people might not
Yeah, I
have a
think
camera, huh?
raising hand. I mean, basically, we like questions in line. So go ahead and raise your hand, put it in chat. Jess, if you're monitoring chat, feel free to interrupt us and let us know that there's a question. And then actually, we also forgot to do introductions, which I'd love to do ahead of time. So Dan, do you
Okay.
want to run through introductions real quick after since I've done my first part of the introduction?
Sure. Is this a good time?
Let's go.
Okay. What I'm going to do is start at the bottom here and go up. So Wayne Rothermit, can you unmute yourself and tell us where you are and what your audio deal is in a few words? And I won't wait real long. Okay, Tom Stiles, can you unmute yourself and maybe turn your camera on and tell us where you are and what you're up to?
Hi there, my name is Tom Stiles. I am at the world famous Seattle Center in an office, not running sound at the moment for anything. Sometimes I am in a studio office, not recording, or not teaching a workshop. And other times I'm out and about in the world, not doing sound design and not not doing consulting. These are all the things that I not do.
Great.
And I not do them here in Seattle and also in California.
All right, cool. Thank you. Thor, you put an interesting comment in the comments there. Would you unmute yourself and camera and tell us where you are and what you do and repeat that comment, please?
Yeah, happy to. Not set up for a camera here, unfortunately.
Okay.
I am a mastering engineer, Sonova Mastering. Moved here from Norway almost 7 years ago. We also do a lot of immersive work. And I heard your comments. I was a little bit late getting into the meeting, but I just heard that you had been unable to get a hardware emulation set up. And if you would like to continue this or add to the library of tests you've done, I'm happy to loan you my. I have a Head 192 that I love. So that would be great. I'm based in Los Angeles.
Great. Thanks for joining us. Steve, I know that you can't talk to us, but if you want to type something in, I'll read it later. Samuel Buckner, are you able to unmute?
I think so. I'm
You
here
are.
in Los Angeles. I'm an immersive mixer, and thanks for putting this on. You guys have a great section, and your topics are always great. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments too, needless to say. Bob Hewitt, can you unmute and tell us where you are and what you're up to audio-wise?
Sure. Yeah, I'll echo that and say thanks for having these meetings. They're really great and informative. I'm working independently. I'm in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and I mix documentaries and music for documentaries, mostly classical music. And I've been working a little bit with the local art scene with kind of musical instrument design and experimentation with Macs and that kind of thing. So thanks.
Cool. Thank you for being with us. Rick Fisher, can you tell us where you are and what your audio deal is?
There it is. I am I'm between Bremerton and Silverdale. Happily quasi-retired from the mastering business and just tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Always great to see you.
Thank you.
Rick Chen, where are you? What's your audio deal? Are you there? I hear shuffling, but it's not from Rick apparently. We'll come back to you. Mike Metesky, can you unmute and tell us what you're up to in audio? Okay, Michael Ashton, I know you can unmute.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? All right, great.
Yeah.
I'm Michael Ashton. I'm not working. I'm kind of working professionally in audio at the moment, but I have a side business working on various audio widgets. Ashton Research. Day job is in tech. In a past life, I worked for Burr Brown, a bunch of different MI companies, Moog Music, so mostly did audio interfaces and synthesizers. So,
Cool. I announced your meeting next month. Is there
yes.
anything you want to add to the description that's secret for these people here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We may have more guests than announced, so
Great.
should be pretty interesting. We may have to actually get selective because they're starting to come out of the woodwork.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Mac Perkins, where are you? What's your audio story? Briefly. Able to, there you go.
I'm Whidbey Island, Washington, about 20 odd miles north of Seattle, across some water. And I've done a lot of work in theater sound. Worked with Rick, worked with Matthew doing studio maintenance, bunch of stuff over the years. Now retired.
All right, cool. I'm going to go to Luke next, but first I'll read from Steve Wilkins saying he studied perception in my psychology degree and worked in acoustic consulting for a number of years with Man Inc. Also a professional musician and have studied and have a studio I've maintained for decades, producing several vanity productions, getting better through trial and error plus AES education. All right, Steve. Thank you. Luke, where are you? And tell us about your audio.
I'm Luke Bahalski. I'm in Mundelein, Illinois, which is about an hour away from Chicago. I am a software developer by trade, but I do live recording and mixing and mastering and things like that, just kind of on my own. And with Dan Mortensen here, Gary Louie, we've done lots of research into the Columbia 30th Street studio. So that's kind of how we connected back in the day.
All right, cool. Good to see you as always. Lon Neumann, where are you? What's your audio story?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Lon Neumann. I'm an old-time colleague of Rick Fisher and Matt Sutton here. I'm in Hollywood. I'm in Atmos and other spatial audio systems in planning and commissioning and support, and quite active in standards development at SMPTE and AES and CEDIA.
Cool. It's always great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Janie Wallach, what's your audio story and where are you?
Well, I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I record live audio, generally at clubs, but in the summer especially, although that's the season seems to be getting more and more prolonged. I also record festivals, and there was a festival. There were actually 2 different festivals last month, which is kind of new. But anyway, yes, that's what I do.
Okay, good to see you as always.
Mm-hmm.
James Stam, are you able to unmute yourself and tell us where you are and what your audio story is?
Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay. No camera tonight, unfortunately, but I am in Huntington, West Virginia. I am sort of starting out audio production program through Marshall University. I'm more of a composer, but have sort of fallen into this role of directing some of those studies. And right now, I just do a lot of live production, recording, archiving. We actually have a lot of old tapes, like analog tape from the 60s, 70s, some of our old recordings and things like that. So this was a really exciting workshop for me. So I'm really excited.
That's great. Great. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Bob Smith, where are you? What's your audio story?
Yes, I'm in beautiful Linwood, Washington, somewhere halfway between Seattle and Everett. I'm an acoustic researcher, retired from corporate work, now working independently in my own lab, and enjoying being able to do projects without having a corporate deadline to meet.
Good for you. Thanks for being with us again. Bob Lord, where are you? What's your story?
Hi, I'm in Colorado Springs, retired software engineer doing live sound and recording here. And my face is only suitable for audio, so I'll leave my camera.
You and me both. Thank you. Bob Lord, where are you? Or sorry, Bill Whitlock. Said Bob Lord already. Bill Whitlock, it's a pleasure having you with us. Are you able to unmute and tell us where you are and what your audio deal is? In short? Yeah, that would be an encyclopedic discussion, I know, but are you able to unmute, Bill? Okay, well, I'm sorry that you can't, because we'd love to hear from you. Rick Chin, where are you and what's your story?
Apologies for not being able to respond previously, but the mouse driver on my iMac dies periodically, and I don't know why.
Oh.
And anyway, so I'm a life member. I'm the past webmaster of the section, and currently I'm doing location recording, and I'm an escaped live sound engineer.
All right. Okay, thank you. Anton Chilibi, maybe? Sorry to mangle your name.
Chilibi.
Where are you and what's your story?
I'm from Ukraine. Are you hear me? Do you hear me?
I hear you. Yep.
Yeah, I'm from Ukraine. Yeah, but now I live in Burbank, LA, and I'm mix engineer, music producer, and just a kind guy. Thank you for your topic, and sorry for my English. I'm just learning because in process.
Your English is wonderful. It's vastly better than my Ukrainian. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Do you know Andrew Shemendak?
Yes.
I'm calling on next.
He invited me in this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew, tell us where you are and what you're up to.
Okay, I'm here. I'm a live sound engineer and a system engineer. Currently live in Spain. Yeah, I'm also doing mixes and masterings and producing a little bit. So like that. Also doing an acoustics and project in recording studios.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. I see Bill Whitlock is unmuted. Are you able to talk to us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
I'm doing this on my phone because my computer is down. But anyway, you don't need to see my face anyway. Most of you probably know me from Jensen Transformers, 25 years there, or my famous seminars on grounding and interfacing and balanced interfaces and my patents. And anyway, and I'm on the standards committee. I'm a life fellow of the AES and been very involved since 1966. So I'm very interested in this topic because when I worked for Capitol Records, I was directly involved in high-speed recording on cassettes, and also around studios when I was with Quad 8. So magnetic tape is something near and dear. So I'm very interested in tonight's meeting. And thank you.
Cool. Thank you for joining us. It's a joy and pleasure to be happy with us here today.
Thank you.
Mike Metesky, where are you? I see you're unmuted also. Are you able to talk to us?
Yes.
There
There I am. Yeah, as Rick Chin reminded me of tonight's meeting. So I wanted to get on. As this meeting's going on, I'm working on two projects. One, a Juilliard musicians. The other, really, really good musician auditioning for some major orchestras. So I'm kind of in between. But I have an audio video recording studio. I do recording, I do location, principally classical music. However, we certainly venture into other domains.
Cool. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Shelby Locke joined us while we were talking about this. Do you get the idea that we're doing introductions here? And we'd love to hear your voice and hear where you are and what your audio story is. Are you able to unmute, Shelby? Apparently not. Well, you got a camera. I see your camera is on. but your microphone is still muted.
My computer
There
is
you
just
are.
being super slow. I need to upgrade it.
All right, welcome.
Yeah, so I'm also mainly classical music, also acoustic music. I'm based in Santa Cruz, California. I'm about to open my studio, Silver Moon Sound, for recording. I've just been mixing. I've mostly been doing remote mixing for the last 5 years or so. So yeah, I'm gonna open to recording clients really soon. I'm also a classically trained composer and pianist, but most of my work is in audio these days.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and good luck with your studio.
Thank you.
John Chester, where are you, and what's your audio story in part? That would be a long one too.
I'm in Cambridge, Maryland. I do analog circuit design. I have spent a good deal of time maintaining and upgrading tape machines. I have designed the current generation of hardware for plangent processes, and I do plangent processes tape transfers.
All right. It's good to see you as always. Thank you. Gary Louie, you want to introduce yourself here?
Sure. I am in Seattle. I'm a life member of the AES and the secretary of the Pacific Northwest section. And I'm chair of the Tellers Committee for the AES, which does the mechanics of the worldwide AES elections. And my former job that I retired from was several decades as the University of Washington School of Music's recording person.
Cool. Thanks, Gary. Jess Berg, you want to introduce yourself and tell us what your audio deal is?
Yeah, hi, Jess Berg. I am the current vice chair of the Pacific Northwest section. I've been a proud committee member since 2021. I come from Minnesota. I was out in LA. I have a live sound background over 20 years, and I was touring out of LA and then Washington. Got into tour management, production management, toured the world. Did a mid-career, midlife, post-COVID pivot, got recruited into broadcast engineering, brought me back to Minnesota full-time. Currently the technical supervisor with Minnesota Public Radio. And my focus there is NPR News, and we're under the American Public Media entity as well. So work on podcasts and location recordings and events and live broadcasts, runs the whole gamut. So really happy to be here and excited for tonight. Thanks for putting this on.
All right. Thanks, Jess. And thanks everybody for that. I'm always fascinated and enjoy a lot hearing how diverse our group is and where you all are. It's really wonderful that we can be together like this. To reiterate, the question and answer policy here is going to be either you raise your hand or physically or what was it, John, you wanted them to turn their camera on so that you could see them and then you'll call on them, or you can put your comments in the Q&A and Jess will read it.
I thought that the turn the camera on was a good idea until I thought of the flaw that, well, not everybody has a camera maybe. So
well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
so
happy.
Put your questions in the chat then. Let's leave it at that because everybody can do that, I think.
Right. Or just just say you have a question. I'm happy to listen to people ask their questions rather than have it translated through chat. So
that works great too.
Yeah. So Jess, if you could monitor chat and let us, and feel free to interrupt and let us know there's a question. I'd like to take them in stream, just because I don't have much memory left, so I got to do them before we forget everything.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. And
Thank
John
you.
was just about to tell us some stuff before I interrupted
That's it.
him.
John. So Don, tell us about the emulators, please. Oh, okay. So we used two popular software emulators by Universal Audio. They have a Studer A800 plugin, and they've got an Ampex ATR102. I think I took little snapshots of those guys. Let me see if I can bring those up. Here is the Studer one, and here is the Ampex ATR. Little cartoons of Studer 2-inch machine and a little cartoon of an ATR102. We set the settings for each of these to mimic a +6 operating level, and we chose a 900 formula for the tape, which because we think it's closest to the ATR magnetics tape that we used for the real deal. And we did record at 15 IPS on the MM1200, and we chose that on the emulators as well, right? Yes. Great. So before we go further, I talked about levels. We talked about levels here a little bit. Does anybody have any questions about the operating levels on tape, just so we don't have any confusion as we get into the next piece of the puzzle?
Why don't you say it, whether they have a question or not?
Well, I did. I explained the levels that we were dealing with, right? So we're referenced off 185 nanowevers per meter. We have samples at +3 from that, +6, which is where most modern studios are running, +9, which is where some people run, especially with certain versions of tape from RTM, and then +12, which is probably too hot. And then, as John said, the emulators were running at +6, because we didn't really notice a huge amount of difference as we changed the level. Yeah. So if no questions, then what we'd like to do is to start off by playing a stereo track, and you should hear this in stereo. It's a subtle stereo, but it's an overhead of the drum kit. And I'm going to ask John to kind of walk through this, if you would, please. Yeah, I'm sharing the screen, so hopefully you guys can see my ProTools screen right here. And I've got them grouped in track folders. So this top one that's labeled digital is just the straight digital tracks from that song from the American Flats. And we chose only a handful of tracks from the production. We chose a kick drum mic, a snare drum mic, a pair of overheads, and a bass DI'd, and a guitar mic'd. And we wanted to keep it simple, and we printed these to, well, when we did the tape prints, we printed them as multi-tracks. So we didn't do like a mix. So we can solo them. I can solo the snare track for us. I can solo the overhead tracks for us. So this first one is just the digital tracks. The American Flats record that I did with them was done here at Quiet Plays Recording, but we didn't use the tape machine for their project. We just went straight digital into Pro Tools through my Burl converters, and so that was a good sample for us to use for this project. So the first one is digital only, and then the next set of tracks is I've got labeled as deck, and that is just the deck through. So that is, as Matthew talked about, we played the audio of the 6 audio tracks from the digital through the input and then out the output of the MM1200 on input mode, and then recorded that back into Pro Tools. So all we did with that one is just play it through the machine, so it goes through the electronics and the transformers and whatnot, and just record it right back into Pro Tools. From there, we printed 2 tape at various levels, as Matthew said. We've got a +3 one right here. We've got a +6 one below that, a +9, a +12, and then we've got our 2 universal audio plugins, the Studer and the ATR. And we've got multi-tracks of those. So at first, let's give you a sample of what the digital only sounds like. And to keep it clean, should we just do the overheads first? Yeah, let's start with the okay. overheads. And as we're doing this, we can add instruments or solo instruments. But I think starting with the overheads, it's in stereo. It starts to show what we're trying to expose here, which is really, what happens as you go through the deck or over tape. Yep. And And that's the segment that we used for everything. You can hear some cymbals come in at the end there, and that's the nice touch to be able to pay attention to each round. So that was just the straight digitals, nice and clean. And the next up is the deck. So this is, again, just passing through the Ampex MM1200, not actually recording to tape. And then for our next example is a +3 operating level. And here's that. All right, so that was the first one that actually was recorded to tape and then played back into ProTools. And for our next example is +6. ProTools is throwing up, of course, the obligatory CPU warning, even though I have no plugins. And our next one will be +9. It's getting hot in here. Last of the actual tape examples. I was going to say it, but not least, but I think maybe it is. Oh, there's a weird phase thing that happens for the first like 8 bars that Matthew and I like rewound and redid. I'm just going to skip past that part here.
2 more to go, and these are the emulators. This is the UAD Studer A800 emulation, set up at 15 IPS and plus 6.
All right, we have a couple questions in the chat.
All right, let's do one more here. And
Okay.
we've got the Universal Audio plugin for the ATR, the Ampex ATR102. Here we go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience with that.
So, first question.
Yes, first question. Thank you. Samuel asked, were the original recordings at 9624?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And then Thor's asking, are the level differences done to different tape formulations or the same one? For example,
all-
like, yeah, go
It
ahead.
was all to the same tape, and we just we took a tone, we raised the level, the input level of the deck 3 dB each increment, or down and then up, to get the different levels.
I think it
So
would
it's-
be good if Thor unmuted himself and asked the further parts of the question yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, and just different tapes have different reference levels of flexivity, and you want to normally, in most cases, match the deck alignment to the tape. So we have +3 tapes, which are pretty common, +6 like 911, and much of the modern stuff, and +9 if you're using something, I guess, a 900 or the equivalent ATR. So because that way we're listening to how it's ideally set up versus overloading the tape to see what happens there, which is, you know, a great idea, and it's great for creative purposes, but it's good that we know what is the reference, and are we listening to overloaded tape, or are we listening to tape that is calibrated to the actual machine and the levels, the operating levels that it's set up for.
So we used ATR tape for all the tests. The deck was carefully calibrated by me. I've done a couple of them in my life, and then and biased and optimized for that. And then we just simply pushed. We, you know, for the +3 recording, we pulled the level down 3 dB, and then we took it up to
Wait,
0.
you mean the minus
Yeah.
3, right?
To -3. Well, no, for the +3, we were referencing them all to 185. So that one's +3, which is 3 dB down from the optimal, or from the nominal level that the deck is set up for. So yes, -3 from nominal, +3 from nominal, and then +6 from nominal. But all of them on ATR tape on the same deck. We did not change tape.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep.
A
Any
couple
other-
more. Yeah, a
Right.
couple more questions came in. Bob asked, is that faint vocal in the background starting about 15 seconds, just some headphone bleed?
That is some. So I recorded this band, the initial tracks live, and they were all in one room together with a bass DI and an isolated guitar amp in another room. But the vocalist was standing in the room with everybody, so occasionally you hear him singing for the sake of a guide vocal during the performance. So that was actually a rough, scratch track that was done during live performances.
And you heard it through the overhead mics, because they're over the drums.
Yep.
In the same room.
Nice. And we've got Michael asking, were there any dropouts in the recordings?
I heard during one of those playbacks, I heard a dropout. So, but I didn't hear it in the same spot on the next thing. So I think there was a computer glitch of some sort. But nice catch.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering as well. If it was just me, or if there were actually like dropouts, maybe due to oversaturation or anything like that. I heard one of them on the emulation, so I thought maybe they're trying really hard on
Right.
like adding
Quite an
random
emulator.
dropouts sometimes.
Well,
Yeah.
that could also have been a Zoom artifact.
Right,
Absolutely.
that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering, if it was maybe just Zoom.
Yeah,
So,
and again, we have to apologize up front, and definitely recommend that you go to the Pacific Northwest website and download the files. And again, thank John Chester for
Yes, thank you,
level
John
matching
Chester.
for us.
so these stems will be available.
Yes, they're available now.
Oh,
They're
that's
available.
fantastic.
Please do. It's on the pnw.aessections.org website on the homepage there. You can download them, and I definitely
Yeah,
recommend
thank you.
people do it, because you might even want to do it now and listen to them offline, because we are dealing with Zoom here.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's worth your while to download the real files and listen to them on your familiar setups that are trustworthy.
Luke?
The link is in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Nope, not at this time. Thank you.
All right.
So I'd be happy to take, so we could listen to other tracks, we could bounce between tracks, we could set up the whole mix and listen to the mix of the drums, the bass and guitar. What would people's preference be to try to get more color on what we're hearing?
When we looked at this last Saturday at the Tea Time Topics meetings, it seemed useful to me to have the same section of each track that we could jump between back and forth, just to listen to it, for John to switch between those.
Yes, why don't I do this? I can set this up so that I can quickly jump from one to another as it's playing through. And instead of just the overheads, why don't I set up everything except for the guitar? I'm going to go ahead and mute the guitar, because the guitar is a little harsh. And this is not a mix, by the way. This is just like all faders at 0. And on now, John Chester has, like we said, kindly level matched the files that are downloadable for you guys. But these files on my laptop right now are not those level matched files. Matthew and I adjusted the groups of faders for each one to, we would bring down specifically 3 dB to match the level that it was. So when going across them. Yes.
Let me just jump in here and point out that when we say level match, that means that for a given track, like the overheads or the guitar, that means that all of the different versions of the overheads will be exactly the same loudness, and all of the versions of the guitar will be exactly the same loudness. That says nothing about the relationship between any of the different tracks.
Right.
I just picked a loudness target level that kept the peaks at a reasonable level and didn't pay any attention to the relationship between the tracks.
Right. And these tracks here, to John Metzler's point, are not as precisely level matched as John did for the ones that you can download. But they should, the ones we're playing back are reasonably close, where John Chester's are pretty darn close.
Yeah. So if I got this right, this is just the digitals. I switched to the deck. Now I'll switch to +3. And +6. +9. got it duplicated here, so now I'm going to go to plus 12. Oh, there's that phase that I told you about. Sorry about that. Clear up in a second. There we go, there's the plus 12. Here is the Studer plugin. And finally, here is the ATR plugin. And back to the digitals. All right, so there it was. There was kind of rolling through it with overheads, snare, kick, bass DI. Any questions or comments on what you're hearing?
Nothing in the chat yet.
All right. So again, we do encourage you to download those real files so that you can compare them for yourself and some better sounding stuff.
Would somebody like to hear something specific? There you go. Or a specific comparison between the digital sources and something. Don't be shy.
Michael Ashton asked, what are your impressions of these plugins? Are they effective? Are they exaggerated? Are they useful?
The plugins, specifically those two UAD plugins,
Yes,
they're cool. They're useful. They're good. They're a tool. Are they doing the exact same thing as the actual tape and machine? No, not exactly. But as a tool for saturation, yeah, it's useful. And it makes it look like you're dealing with a tape machine, so that's kind of fun. That's the cartoon aspect.
John Chester, you spend a lot of time with these files doing the level matching. Could you comment on it?
Well,
just to put you on the spot,
I mean,
if you don't mind. If you don't want to, that's fine too.
I, of course, don't really have the same viewpoint as someone who does mixing or mastering. I mean, I can certainly hear the differences between these when I listen to the original files. I kind of know what flutter sounds like, having heard a lot of tapes both with and without it. I guess one of my comments would be that if I was mixing this, I certainly wouldn't choose to run everything through tape. I think there are some things that are very useful. For example, we haven't really heard the guitar track. It would probably be interesting to do that.
Yeah.
I thought the guitar track, which sounded kind of nasty in the digital version, got considerably mellower and more appealing in the tape version. I've never particularly liked what tape did to cymbal sound. I find it makes it sound a little splashier and less precise. So I'm not a real fan of that. What it does to the bass is kind of interesting, particularly at the higher levels.
And yeah, that's a good point. And I want to thank Rick Fisher because I had a conversation with him before we did this taping, and he made exactly the same point and took it even a step further in terms of, not everything goes to tape. I mean, you might not hit the tape as hard for each thing. And of course, his point that I'll hopefully not mangle is that, you're building a whole when you do a session. We just took a few tracks and did this to them as carefully as we could.
I mean, if I was going to run the overheads to tape, I would never have gone above +3.
Yeah.
Because it really starts to cut down on what you hear on the cymbals and cut down some of the transients, which I'd rather have than not have.
Thank you. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, so John Metzler just set up the guitar, so we can step through the guitar just like we did with the mix. So we'll do the guitar by itself because it's a little out of context with everything else in some ways.
Yeah. All right, here's just the digital. To the deck. +3. +6. +9. +12. Want to wait for it to loop around. Oh, there's the +12 thing. Okay, so moving on to the UAV Studer. And the UAD ATR. Back to the deck, and then the digital. There's got to be some comments now.
Well, I mean, I would probably choose tape +6 for that. I'd choose tape over any of the others, or I think any of them are better than the digital.
This was one of the impactful ones for me too. When we were doing the tea time testing of this on Saturday, it really softens the hard edges of that guitar recording when you start to hit tape. And +6 and +9, they were the most pleasing to me, in my opinion, of these.
Can you bounce between tape +6 and the emulation and see what the comparison is there?
Yep. Sure can. See, this is fun stuff. I'm glad everybody's joining us for this. Thanks for having me along, Matthew. There's the +6 tape. There's the Studer. Sorry, something got out of whack here. I got a fader that's not happy with me, I think.
As a friend of mine once commented, as I was showing him my new audio precision test instrument many years ago, when I got one of the very first ones, as I was saying, "Oh, watch this, it's really cool. Oh, wait, just a minute. Oh, wait." And he commented that the great thing about computers is it doesn't matter how smart you are, they always make you look stupid.
Yep.
And you can all use that when you get into this situation where you have to cover for something.
Yeah, and my rule is never try to do a simple job with a computer.
There's that too, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make all of them disappear except for...
Bob Hewitt asked the question, do you ever phase cancel the A and B tracks to hear the processing delta?
Well,
not often. I don't often do a null test like that.
The simple answer is, at the moment, they're not lined up well enough for that to be a sensible test.
You could do it on your home downloaded files if you're careful, though.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I've accidentally played several of them at the same time, and at least with the tape ones, they're not lined up perfectly enough to be a useful test. You'd have to put them through something that aligned them more perfectly than the tape machine was able to do.
Yep, pesky synchronizers.
All right, I think I've got it. +6. Studer plugin. UAD plugin. +6. Studer. UAD. +6. All
Thoughts, questions, comments?
Well, to me, tape is the clear winner for that one. But I'm not sure that I'd be interested to know whether the plugins have Flutter. I bet they don't.
I think this niche market is calling you.
Flutter, how would you, Flutter? Yeah.
Well,
you can probably do some of that, John.
Well, I say we could do that, but the question is, did they do it?
Well, that one you could use a null test for, couldn't you, John? Because if there was Flutter, it would go in and out.
On the emulators, yeah.
I'm not sure what that would tell you, because all you're going to hear is the time displacement. And what you would hear if you attempted to null them will not, in my opinion, have any useful relationship to the subjective difference between listening to the one with Flutter and listening to the one without Flutter. Because all you're going to hear is it, jumping in and out of the null as the tape deck flutters.
Right, which would potentially let us know that they did or did not try to do Flutter, but I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Oh, well,
Right.
I mean,
that's what I was saying, John, that you could tell if they attempted it or not by doing null tests.
Sure. If you ran a 10K tone through the emulator and sent it to me, I could tell you whether they did Flutter.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, I can see that a null test between tape and digital, the tape is not going to be exactly on speed all the time, unfortunately. So.
Well, in this case, it's going to stay close to speed because they're using the synchronizer.
Right.
But how close?
But it's going to drift back and forth.
Yeah.
But on average, it's going to stay exactly on speed. It's just the pluses and minuses that it's going to get you.
We got a few more questions in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob Lord asked, I heard some significant level differences as you switched. Is that the effect of fewer odd harmonics / more even in the tape versions?
Probably us not being as well matched level-wise as we should. If they were significant, then, I mean, we did attempt to make them fairly close, but
yeah.
I think that's one where I would have to say that the best answer to that question is to download the files and listen to them for on your own equipment, because you'll really, I know John did a much better job of level matching than we could, or we did.
And I should say that they are loudness matched, not level matched.
Loudness, thank you. Yeah.
Although in this case, the differences are small enough that if you compare loudness to RMS, they're pretty darn close.
Okay. Jess?
Peak, of course, varies considerably from one to the other, because all of this processing changes the peak level quite considerably from one version to the other.
And it did pop up right when that change happened, and we took pause there. So maybe that was part of it too.
On our part. Yeah, that was definitely us, and not planned.
Okay, cool. Michael Ashton asked, would it make any difference to run the entire mix through a plugin or tape rather than the individual tracks?
Well, again, it would be different. The sounds would be different. As I said earlier, we made the choice to do these tracks individually because, typically you wouldn't just, and John alluded to this as well, John Chester alluded to this as well, you wouldn't necessarily run, the guitar at +9 and everything at +9. You would typically run, one thing a little hotter, one thing a little quieter, and running the mix through tape just basically rounds out the whole mix and could significantly alter the character of the mix, quite frankly. And so we did not take that approach.
Yeah, it's going to be very different. I think on average, that's less useful than doing it to the individual tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And then Bill Whitlock asked, do you have any recordings of the hardware emulator? Presumably this is an analog emulator, yes. Analog emulators are where my real interest is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bill, you missed the point where, unfortunately, we did not we did not have an opportunity to run these through a hardware emulator. Logistics just didn't allow us to. My apologies.
I had a lead on a couple of different hardware emulator options, but I wasn't able to get them into the studio to run tracks through them before in time to make this meeting.
Well, thanks. And then Bob Lord just said, with all the combinations, this looks like it was a lot of work. Many thanks for that.
You're
Here.
welcome.
Definitely.
It was a day. Yeah, it was a bit of work, but any other thoughts?
I wanted to ask people who downloaded these files before the meeting and listened to them on your own setup, how that compares to what you heard today on Zoom. I know a couple people downloaded it ahead of time.
It's a lot better with the downloaded files.
There's a surprise.
Yeah.
The differences are a lot clearer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what did you hear in terms of what you thought was better or useful or different or whatever?
Just being able to hear the differences between the different tracks.
Mm-hmm.
The Zoom really takes a lot out of it, and you don't realize how much it takes out until you listen to the tracks directly.
Mm-hmm. And Michael Ashton makes that point in the chat also. Anybody else who listened to them? Did your favorites differ from the downloaded files than the online?
Well, Max, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I thought I could still hear the differences, and I could still hear, comparing one to another, and to say, the way the plugins have a little more pronounced sound.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that on Zoom and on the tracks.
So your preference stayed the same?
That's right. And I'd agree on that +6, on the things that wanted any kind of, processing. That tape sound is good, in the right place.
Awesome.
I think it's nice to have it as an option as opposed to having to deal with it all the time for everything.
Mm-hmm. And so, Mac and Robert, since you both have had the opportunity, I mean, I think, Robert, you just made a little bit of a point that you felt that the emulators did a reasonably good job, and I don't want to misconstrue that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of, okay, if you do apples to apples, +6 to +6 across tape emulators, do you, who listened to them this way, feel that the tape emulators were doing their job?
They're certainly doing something.
Thank you, Mac.
Well, I'm an old analog tape guy, so I've done a lot of that. I must admit that I've never played with an emulator, so I looked at them. I looked at the effectively cut sheet for them, and there are a lot of controls. So it would be interesting to get one and play with it. I'm not sure if I can get one without paying a whole bunch of money for it to plug into my DAW, but
yeah. And some of them I know you can actually adjust the bias, and I shudder to think what that might do. But I don't have any experience with it. I just was told that one day.
DC bias?
No, I don't think
it's
they
bit
offer
bias,
that
Matt.
feature.
It's bits. It's bits, man. Come on, it's a computer. Robert, sorry, we've been dominating this. Go ahead.
No, but that bias adjustment could be very interesting because it alters the balance between second harmonic distortion and third harmonic distortion, which is definitely going to change the sound.
Yeah.
I think that's where this comparison comes in handy, and the fact that the plugin sound may be a little more pronounced is honestly useful. I'm reaching for that to get a certain tone. So, I don't want to hear it. I want to hear it. I don't want to be bogged down in how subtle it is necessarily, unless I really want it to be subtle. The question about the null test is a little more of like a bigger investigation into feeling like sometimes these plugins sound a little grainy, and depending on what it is, what the content is, and what you're asking it to do, by the time I get through a few different things, sometimes with isotope plugins, I'm like, I got my results tonally, but everything has a little hair on it now. And moving back to distortion, generally it's a color thing, and I'll go through dozens of amps until it hits that Bandonian read just the right way. That's about all I can say about it. It's more of a trial and error than I'm going for a certain sound, save for tape speed, which in that case I'll be looking for 30 EPs if I need a specific bass sound.
Right.
Yeah, the trouble with the null test is it reveals both the change that the emulator was supposed to create and all of the errors that it made, and I don't see how you can separate the two of them.
That's a great point. I'll say about that is that sometimes if you take them back into isotope or spectral layers and have a close look, I don't know. I have some questions about things that appear in the very high frequencies that don't seem that natural, and I wonder if that's contributing to that effect. I mean, it's not like I'm doing major research on this. It's just a sense of, if I'm working hard on something and I'm putting it through too many plugins, then I'm going backwards.
Yep. Option paralysis.
Yeah, for sure that. And then a certain amount I can't say there's no degradation, especially when you're spectral layers really taking things apart, and there's approximations going on. It doesn't always go back together correctly.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from people?
Yeah, I'd be interested to get your comment on whether I guess that this isn't meant to be a loaded question, I guess, but what would be the place of an actual physical tape machine in a studio in the coming years? I mean, is this something are tape machines actually going to kind of disappear and we'll be happy with plugins, or do you think this is something that should hopefully remain an option for a long time?
I'm going to let my friend Mr. Metzler have a little time here.
All right. Thank you. I have opinions on this.
Excellent.
So, and opinions is what these are. All right. Like let's get away from the test equipment for a minute and talk about like using a tape machine as an artist, as a producer, as a modern person trying to help artists and musicians create works of art and get them out of their heads and into the ears of their fans. I have a room full of Ampex tape machines because I wanted to honor and learn the craft as it was done on so many records that I grew up loving. This test has shown me that it's not so much the sound of tape versus digital, because these are subtle, as you guys are hearing now. A lot of people want to fantasize about using a tape machine is going to instantly sound like a Motown record or something. And that's clearly not how the end all and be all of a Motown record, how they got there. These differences are subtle, and what is the future of a tape machine in a recording studio? Is it just like this old archaic thing that is cool and speaks to the days of old, or is it useful? Because the plugins, I think that most people are going to be happy enough with the plugins. Frankly, I think it's going to continue to be a small niche. I think that it's not going to go away, but I think that it's going to be fewer and fewer of us who are interested in owning and maintaining and using these machines.
And we can hope that the plugins will continue to evolve.
Correct.
So I have a question. I'll know the answer for a couple of people on this because I know you have them in the basement, but how many people on this call actually have an analog tape deck? we'll say a professional analog tape deck, just to narrow it a little bit. Tascam, we'll call Tascam and above a professional tape deck. Raise your hands, please. John, you don't count. You have too many. Yeah, I know. Which color of which flavor for you, right?
But I don't
Mac?
record to them. I only use playback.
I know. You only playback, yeah. And how many of you actually use them to record on?
Does everybody have the raise hand signal or
Oh, there people are just
ability to?
people are bringing the cameras on. So really, it's just a
find
few.
that I am lost. I hate to say it, but
So I mean, I think part of the answer to the question is answered by how few people. I mean, you know, John, Mac, and Rick Chin, I know, have decks multiples, but you know, and Mike Mateski and somebody else raised a rod. But as I work on analog decks around Seattle, I mean, I did a lot of tech work in Seattle back in the 80s, and everybody had analog tape because that's all we had. But I only know a few studios that have decks, and mostly it's mixed down decks. They'll have a 24 track, it'll be parked in the back, and almost never get turned on. Because I get called when they get turned on because they're broken and I got to go fix it. So, I mean, I think you know, John, your point about the process of recording to tape and just, you know, doing things the old way has some allure for some artists.
Yeah, and I use my tape machine all the time. I use it with every client that will allow me to. And that's why I bought this clasp system that integrates it really cleverly, and that allows me to record to tape and digitize into Pro Tools immediately off the repro head. And for me, it's exciting to see the tape machine working and know that I'm using it. I do hear what I've referred to in conversations with Matthew, a sonic patina to something that's been recorded on tape. A little bit of a harmonic glow that is added to some tracks. And it's cumulative. If I've got my 16 track heads on there and I've got a full band recorded on there, that subtlety on each track adds up to something that is special about it. It's not real heavy-handed. There's still subtleties to it, but a well-maintained and well-aligned professional machine is not gonna change the sound in a dramatic way. A broken machine that's poorly aligned, that maybe has the bass response like too high, like that might come back on a reggae record and you think like, wow, that tape machine sounds great. Well, they tweaked the low end because that's their genre. They want it to sound like that. But that's not what we're talking about here. So the other thing is the process. Recording a band like with the computer turned off and tracking to an analog deck, it's a linear process. It's a much more linear process than a digital audio workstation.
There's no undo.
There's no undo. There's no doing small. I mean, you can punch in and punch out, but that's going to become a nightmare. It's really about like ensemble recording at this point. And the other thing that we're missing these days is people are nostalgic for talent. That's what we've discovered. People are nostalgic for talent, and to record a great sounding record before the age of the computer required everybody in the room to have a certain level of talent and be on their A game, and everybody playing together and doing that thing, making magic from music. And now it's a cut and paste, copy and paste collage work of loops and stuff. And someone can be a mediocre guitar player and play that part 500 times and pick the one time they played it that was better than the rest, and copy and paste that out. And that's a different way of producing a record. And so when an album is produced in a linear fashion, the way it was, before computers, whether it's on a tape machine or not, you're going to have an element of musicality that is different than a collage work of audio clips put together in a pleasing way.
And once upon a time, that could be done live to 2-track or even mono.
Absolutely. Yep. Thoughts? Anybody else have thoughts?
There's a
Well,
couple.
Question. Go ahead, John.
One thing occurs to me, if you're talking about how long we're going to have tape machines, the two limiting factors to me seem to be the availability of heads, which is getting harder and harder to get, and the availability of tape, because the chances that you're going to get a good roll of tape today from anybody is significantly less than it used to be 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. Everybody makes bad tape occasionally.
Some people are better at it than others.
Of course, I remember.
My experience is there's only a difference on particular days.
Yeah, that's what I say. Some people are better at
Somebody
making
at
bad tape than others.
Quantigy and down south would pour a bag of oxide into the hopper, and the bag would go with it, and suddenly you've got a bad batch of oxide coming out. So.
Yeah, it's a delicate operation and not as well practiced. Jess, you had some questions?
There's some more comments in the chat. Some tape decks. Oh, Rick?
Are you talking to us, Rick?
Rick is trying to talk.
I'm just waving my hand and raising my hand and being polite.
Oh,
I think something that hasn't been mentioned is the sheer cost of tape today.
Oh, good God.
Yeah, I mean, that's not for the meek.
Taste my pain.
Yeah.
Not to mention just keeping the damn things running.
Yes.
Well, there's that too. Although I don't mind that part.
I feel my wallet trembling.
To add to John Chester's comment about heads and tape being two of the main factors that are going to dictate how long tape machines stick around. Another is techs that are worth their salt, that know what they're doing to help us keep them running. God bless you, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, you remember last year when MRL was going to pull the plug? Oh my God, we all panicked. I was like, oh, good God, what are we going to do without alignment tapes that are precision? And just that rocked the boat, and we all felt it. I watched people come out of the woodworks to comment on the disaster that could have been.
Jess, did you have a question that we've interrupted you on 3 times?
no, it's okay. It was just some neat comments. Some more tape machines. I may botch the name, but Michael Ashid says, "So got my trusty JVC gray face," and Bill Whitlock says, "I do 2 Revox A77s."
There you go.
Yep. James Stam says, Doc Order,
11.
Doc Order 1140.
There.
Yep.
Right.
Bob Hewitt made the comment about rewinding brakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob Lord says, forces you to make many more decisions in real time as opposed to postponing. I forget
Exactly.
what point that was at. Yeah. And Bob Smith says, copy and paste loses the overall feel and becomes a bland product. So
word.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I installed the first digital decks in Seattle area, linear decks, and then the first digital audio workstations. And the digital audio workstations were in post-production facilities for doing commercials and stuff like that. And the ability to cut and paste and, now there's plugins to remove breaths from recordings, but, to be able to just, pop those pieces in and be able to undo was a marvelous thing for production. But as it came into the music world, it definitely changed things. I would invite everybody. Oh, Rick, please.
So one last thing, let's not forget that these machines are some of them are 50 years old now. And I don't know about you, but I know that when I turned 50, things were not what they were when I was 20.
Well, and yeah,
tape machines are no different. And so we need it's kind of like owning an old Ford. You need an organ donor or three sitting in the backyard where you can go hustle apart.
Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately, the Ampex machines, MCIs, the Studers, and even the Otaris, I mean, they were not built to last 50 or 60 years, but they seem to be doing it reasonably well, other than friction wear heads, things like that. I mean,
and rubber parts.
And rubber parts, but some of those things you can get, some of them you can't, and donor machines are becoming more and more important. But I work on some Tascams. I just had a Fostech 16-track in, and those heads. I told the customer, whatever you have to transfer, bake the tapes, get it off there, because those heads are just gonna go one day, and and it's done.
And those aren't Ampex heads.
No, they are not Ampex heads. They're a little softer. John?
And, well, at the moment, repairing 50-year-old electronics is still pretty possible.
Right.
Takes some imagination sometimes, figuring out what modern part will replace the old part that you can't get.
Yep.
But we're reaching the point where those parts are going to start disappearing as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the ability to buy discrete transistors and ICs that are not in surface mount packages is definitely on the decline at this point.
Yeah.
It's really started to accelerate in the last 5 years.
Yeah. I would invite any further comments that people might have. We're kind of, I think we've wrangled this a fair amount as best we can in Zoom. And again, I invite everybody to listen to the things offline. And my email address is in the download package. Feel free to send comments, and I'll do my best to get them out somewhere. And maybe I'll put them in the meeting write-up that we put up on the website. So if you have comments after you've listened to them, feel free to email them to me, and I'll add them onto that on the website. Anything else? Well, I want to thank John Metzler immensely for all the time and trouble you put into this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Again, John Chester, thank you for level matching the files for people. It makes it a much better listening experience, and also for your expertise and the comments that you've added tonight, and to everyone else for coming. I hope that you found it worthwhile, and we'll see you next time. Dan?
Yeah, great. Thanks, you guys. That was obviously a lot of work that you did, and we appreciate it a lot. That was an interesting day that you had. One thing I wanted to mention was the subject, tea time topics came up a couple times in it. And what that is a group of people that I started during the pandemic to keep me busy on Saturdays, where we get together and talk about a wide variety of things. And there's a number of people here who are regulars at that, and we make a point of having everybody talk about what they've been doing and what kind of projects they've been working on, and people show us how to fix something, how they fixed something, or took it apart, or put an IC here that was bad and fixed it and made it new. And it's just fun to hear people talk about their things. If you want an invitation to that, send me your email in the chat, and I will send it to you, the Zoom link. And I'm happy to stay and talk with people. The cool thing about this is that there's no meter running. We can talk about whatever we want to. So thanks again to John and Matthew for doing all of that. And does anybody have anything that they wanted to bring up before we go into whatever we're going to go into?
Well, I had a story about aligning a multi-track tape recorder while babysitting a 4-year-old nephew. Some of you may have heard that story before, but you know what the procedure is. You have an alignment tape there's an announcement of a frequency, it plays the frequency, and then another frequency, and it plays it again and again and again, and you do this for every channel on the machine. My nephew starts off with this story about this evil professor doctor, and he has this mummy laying on a table in front of him, and he has this big needle, and he pokes the mummy in the foot, and the mummy goes, ow. He pokes the mummy in the leg, and the mummy goes, ow. He pokes him in the side, and the mummy goes, ow. He pokes him in the hand, and the mummy goes, ow. He pokes him in the other side, and the mummy goes, ow. And it goes on, and finally he says, good, everything hurts. And the alignment tape announces 16 kilohertz. Good, yes.
Thanks all. We're going to sign off. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, you guys.
Bye-bye.